Welcome to this week's Wellness Wednesday. And this week we have the third in our three-part series with Julia Alderman exploring how to work with supplements. And in this week's episode, Julia and I are talking about how to manage and how to avoid supplement reactions. A lot of people with fatigue-related conditions can be quite sensitive to supplements. And there's a certain kind of science and logic to how we get people to work with supplements in such a way, which reduces the likelihood of having reactions. And when people do have reactions, how to manage that and how to work with that. So I think this is going to be a really important session. If you haven't watched the first two episodes, please do check those out on YouTube. And here is Julia Alderman. So thank you, Julia, for joining me for this video.
Thanks.
And this is the third in our three-part series. So we're talking about supplement sensitivities. And I think just it's worth saying that a number of people which have ME, chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, Lyme disease, that kind of whole group of conditions can be super sensitive to supplements. Do you want to just start off by saying a little bit about why that can be the case and the kind of biochemical individuality that people have?
Yeah, absolutely. As you say, it's something that we experience a lot in the clinic. I'd say a lot of our clients are very, very sensitive to supplements, and we're very used to working very slowly. I think ultimately, when the body is very out of balance, as it tends to be in chronic health conditions, really, first of all, we have to start with stabilizing the system. If we put more supplements in, that's going to be an added stress. And there can be a number of reasons why that is. So it could be if someone is in a maladaptive stress response, so there is still high amounts of stress on their system. Might be if there's a lot of immune overreactions, so then a supplement is then reacted to in that way. It might be if there's a lot of toxicity on the system. It might be that we need to address another imbalance first. So yeah, what we always say is that the supplement reactions really give us clues as to what's going on inside, because we need to look at the cause. So
Yes.
Once we know why someone's reacting to something, that actually gives us really useful information. So just give a simple example, something like a probiotic. We might have done a stool test. We know someone needs it, and we've worked on eradicating additional bacteria that shouldn't be there, and we're now trying to build the gut up. If those probiotics still continue to produce lots of wind, bloating, making someone feeling unwell, might be that we need to look at something else. So like small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. And until that is addressed, the supplement won't be tolerated by that person.
Yeah, I think it's a good example of the kind of trial and error element sometimes of the process. And I think that's where the depth of experience that we have means that whereas a less experienced practitioner might try a supplement, someone reacts, and then it's a little bit like a roadblock that they can't get past. Whereas with the fact that we've had so many kind of cases of people we've worked with, we can often go, well, that's probably why. And as you say, that actually informs not only is that not, for the patient, it's a terrible thing, I had a reaction. Whereas to us, it's like, that's really important information that tells us, okay, this is where we need to go next in terms of working with it. It's worth, I think, saying, you mentioned about going slowly at the start. Maybe just say a little bit about how we would recommend, like the kind of starting on tiny doses and having a gap between, just a bit about how we encourage people to introduce new supplements.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, and I think it's important to say as well, for those who are most ill and most sensitive, it may be appropriate not to start with supplements, but really to work on other aspects. So making sure routes of elimination are open, perhaps starting with a bit of dry skin brushing, perhaps a gentle sauna, or focusing on juicing and other aspects first. And then when we come on to supplements, so our general guidance is that we ask clients to start supplements a week apart and to start on a very, very small amount and gradually build up. So, for example, if a dosage was 1 teaspoon a day, we'd get them to start with about a quarter of a teaspoon. If that's okay, next day build up until over the course of the week they then build up to the full teaspoon. If at any point along the way they feel sensitive to that supplement, then they would reduce it down to the amount that they felt well with. But for those who are extremely sensitive, it might be that literally they start with 1 drop a week. And that might sound ridiculous, and you might think, well, that can't possibly have an effect, but it absolutely does. And by working with that level, the body can then very gradually increase the dosage. And it may be that for the most sensitive people, the full amount required is significantly less than it is for somebody else. I think often people think, oh, I'm not on the full amount, so I'm not going to recover, and it's going too slow. But actually, it's about, we're all very individual, have very individual requirements. And what's most important when it comes to supplements is listening to your body, seeing how it feels, and not trying to push through and not trying to get onto what's seen as the right amount. Because when people do that, they can make themselves feel a lot worse.
Yeah. And it's a great example where achiever patterns applied to taking supplements is very rarely an effective way of getting through it.
Yeah.
I think people can think, well, I'm not going to make progress until I get to the recommended dose. Therefore, the more pain I'm willing to tolerate to more quickly get to the recommended dose, the faster I'm going to recover. And it's almost always the opposite, that the more you try to push through, the more of a load you put on your body, the more your body's just stressed out and overwhelmed trying to deal with that load. And going gently and slowly really is, the tortoise always beats the hare when it comes
Definitely. Yeah.
So do you want to break down a bit more some of the reasons why someone might react to, you kind of touched on it a bit before, but you've got a kind of checklist here, which in the notes I think is quite helpful.
Yeah. So we mentioned maladaptive stress response. So that's really where the body is in a heightened stress state, and anything new that the system encounters is therefore going to be a new stress, and that includes supplements. It might also be that the dosage is just too high. So like we said, it's not necessarily that someone has to push through to a higher amount, because if that makes them feel worse, staying on a reduced amount is the right thing to do. It might just be the form of the supplement. So if we take adrenal support, for example, some people thrive and do extremely well on adrenal glandulars, so like an adrenal cortex supplement. Whereas for other people, even if their cortisol is low, it might make them feel a bit too revved up, and they do much better on adaptogenic herbs. It might be the form of the supplement. So again, if you look at something like folic acid, for example, some people have really a genetic requirement for certain types. So for example, looking at a methylfolate there. So those would be some of the things to look at. We might also, like they want to look at other imbalances that need to be addressed first, and looking at toxicity. So like we say, if there is mold, Lyme, viruses, lots of metals, lots of toxicity, supplements are often going to be more difficult to take, because the immune system is going to be very active, and we very much need to work on opening routes of elimination first to really reduce that toxic load down and stabilize the immune system, and to then get supplements in later.
And I think this is, again, it's a great example of why working with an experienced practitioner is so important, because being able to decipher which of these things may be going on is often quite nuanced. And it's sometimes an element of trial and error, of trying different things, reducing the dose, of if we can see that the nervous system's really ramped up, going doing some work on calming and settling that first. So it kind of goes back to the point of, there is a lot that people can do by themselves with things like working with diet, working with meditation, working with calming their systems, lots of pieces. But this is an area where a lot of nuanced and a lot of experience becomes really important.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, like you say, it is a science really to put all those different parts of the picture together. And that's where it's really essential as practitioners that we have a full case history for clients, so we know exactly what's happened in the background in their past, and really piecing all of those bits together.
Brilliant, Julia. Thank you so much. I think that will have been hopefully really helpful for a lot of people that think they're the only one that's having these kinds of reactions, to realize not only are they not alone, but there absolutely are things that can be done to work with them.
Absolutely. Thanks, Ben.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I hope you found that helpful. If you haven't already, please do check out the first 2 episodes with Julia. If you'd like to find out more about working with a practitioner here at the Optimum Health Clinic, please do visit theoptimumhealthclinic.com. You can request a free information pack. You can also book a free 15-minute chat where you can talk to Julia or one of her colleagues in the nutrition team, and specifically we can help you find out if we can help you on your path to recovery. So tomorrow it's Thoughtful Thursday, and on this week's Thoughtful Thursday I am talking about managing some of the background stress that we can often have, those kind of things that niggle us, that are in the background, that actually do have an impact upon our nervous system. So I look forward to talking with you tomorrow.